Okay, good afternoon. Thank you for joining me. I want to welcome you to the State University of New York. My name is Brian Culligan. I am an admissions recruitment advisor with the SUNY Center for Student Recruitment. We are located on 42nd Street in Manhattan, right across the street from Bryant Park. And we help students every day to find the SUNY schools that are a right fit for them. We help them to apply to those schools. We even help them with filling out financial aid forms and other documents that any required document you might need to begin your study on a SUNY campus. So if you do need our services, I'm going to put the contact information up towards the end of the presentation. You're welcome to give us a call and you can set up an appointment with an admissions advisor like myself, or if you're walking by, you're more than welcome to stop in and pick up some information as well on the SUNY system. Uh, what I'd like to do today is give you an overview of the SUNY schools. Right? This is the largest the largest university system in the United States. So we can only really give you an overview in this 1 hour time period because there's just too many schools and too many programs to be able to really get in depth into each and every one. And again, our office is here right in Midtown Manhattan. So if you do need our services or if you do want to come in and speak about a particular school or program, we're happy to do that. All right. So we start off with saying, which SUNY are you? I hope everybody can see and hear me all right and see the presentation just fine. We say, which SUNY are you? Because again, we are the largest university system in the US. All right. So we believe that throughout our schools and all the programs that they offer, no matter what your interests are, you can find at least one SUNY school, probably a couple, that will fit those interests. So that's what this is all about, finding out which SUNY schools fit you and those academic or extracurricular interests, right? So there are 64 individual and unique campuses in the SUNY system, right? When I say unique, what I mean is that no two SUNY schools look alike, right? Their campuses look different. Some have 20,000 students, some have 5,000 students, some have 1,000 students. They offer different programs of study. Right? Some are within 20 minutes or 30 minutes of New York City. Some are right here in Manhattan. Others are going to be up to 7 or 8 hours away. So depending on what you're looking for out of a school, again, it's about finding that right fit for you. Combined, these schools offer more than 5,000 programs of study. So that's more than 5,000 undergraduate majors. Right? Combined, they offer more than 500 study abroad programs. And once you attend one SUNY school, because we are all part of one system, once you attend one SUNY school, you can take part in any other SUNY school's study abroad program. So if you want to travel the world and meet new people, experience new cultures, right, SUNY has, again, 500 separate study abroad programs that you can take advantage of. So when it comes to SUNY, we like to remind you that this is about choice. Right? Between the 64 schools, between the 5,000 programs of study, it's about choice. And it's also about opportunity. There are more than 450,000 students studying within the SUNY system right now. And in total, we've graduated close to 3 million students. So that means we have 3 million alumni from our system out there right now. They are directors, owners, managers, and the businesses, the careers, right, that you want to get into. So when it comes to an alumni network, and you think about how a school can help you move from that degree into that career, think about being part of something bigger. Think about being part of an alumni network with almost 3 million other individuals. Okay. And also when it comes to SUNY, we want to talk about value, because SUNY is going to be one of the most affordable higher education options out there for our New York State residents. Right? We're going to talk about the cost of attendance in a little bit, how much it costs exactly to study at a SUNY campus, a four-year school, or a two-year school. But right now I want to take a closer look at the schools themselves. And what I want to do is show you where these schools are located throughout New York State, and also tell you how long it's going to take you to get there from New York City, because I know this program is open to New York City public schools, so it's going to matter to a lot of students that are watching this presentation right now, how long it takes them to get from home up to these schools and back. And as I mentioned, that time can be anywhere from 20 or 30 minutes up to 8 hours, and it depends on what you're comfortable with. So we will talk about the distance from New York City to these schools. I want you to keep in mind that this distance is by bus, train, or car traveling from Midtown Manhattan, right here in Midtown Manhattan. So think about that as well. You'd be leaving from maybe Port Authority, Grand Central Station if you're taking Metro North, or Penn Station, or maybe you're taking the Long Island Railroad, right? But these times are going to be from Midtown Manhattan. First, I'd like to point out to students in New York City that there are other cities in New York State. And I think you do know that, but I'd like to remind you. New York City is the largest city in New York State. So sometimes these other cities might get a little bit overshadowed by the area that you grew up in and live in. But there's Buffalo, that's the second largest city in New York State. Then we have Rochester, Syracuse, and Albany. And when we look at a map of our campuses, you'll see that some of these campuses are in and around these city centers, including New York City, as well as in some of the smaller towns that we like to call college towns throughout New York State. So let's take a look at all 64 schools on one map. I know that map's a little bit daunting and maybe a little bit confusing because there's so many schools. Right? In a moment, what we're going to do is break that down into different campus types or campus sectors. And we're going to concentrate on those campus types and talk about what the difference is between the campus types. Okay? But this is a map of our 64 schools, and as you can see, these schools are in and around those city centers, which means that they have all the amenities that any city center would have. Public transportation in and around town, large shopping downtown areas, right, as well as transportation hubs so that you can easily get between other parts of the state, including New York City, other parts of the country, and other parts of the world from these city centers. So when we talk about the distance it takes, the time it takes rather to get from New York City up to these schools, keep that in mind that the schools in and around these city centers often have airports as well. So if an emergency comes up, you, even from Buffalo, would be able to get back to JFK here in New York City in about 45 minutes to an hour if you had to, right? So keep that in mind as we talk about the distance from New York City to these schools. And as I said, we break these schools down into different campus types or campus sectors. We have the university centers and doctoral degree granting institutions. Then we have the university colleges, the technology colleges, and the community colleges. The difference between these campus types is going to be the types of degrees that they offer, right? Let's first take a look at the university centers and doctoral degree granting institutions. This campus type includes both our university centers, which are our 4 largest colleges. That's Albany, Buffalo, Binghamton, and Stony Brook, as well as our special mission campuses. And by special mission, what I mean is that school has a focus on a particular area of study. And you can usually tell what that focus is based on the name of that school. So pay close attention to the names of those special mission campuses because it's going to tell you what kind of degree programs you can find at those schools. But within this category, within this campus type, you can find bachelor's, master's, and doctorate programs. You also find large research institutions attached to these schools or associated with these schools. SUNY itself spends about $1 billion a year on research, and that funding goes throughout our schools, but a lot of it does make its way into these university centers and doctoral degree granting institutions because of those large research institutions. So if that's something that's very important to you and something that you're looking for out of your college education, then you might want to take a look at some of these schools a little bit more closely, because again, this can only really be an overview of the schools since we don't have too much time. First, we have the University at Buffalo. The University at Buffalo is 7 hours from New York City. And when I say 7 hours, remember, that's train, bus, car, right? And I just mentioned a moment ago that getting from Buffalo back to JFK here in New York City would take you about 45 minutes to an hour. So if an emergency comes up, you could get back home very quickly. But the University of Buffalo, by train, bus, or car, is going to take a student roughly about 7 hours to get from Midtown Manhattan up to that school. Binghamton. Binghamton University is 3.5 hours from New York City. Albany is located right in the New York State capital, Albany, New York. That's 3 hours north of New York City. And then we have the closest university center to New York City is Stony Brook. That's 1.5 hours out on Long Island. Okay. So those are those university centers I mentioned. They have between 12,000 and 20,000 students. They compete at NCAA Division I. So if you are looking for large campuses, maybe you want to take a closer look at some of those schools. Now we're going to take a look at the special mission campuses. We have the Alfred University. Alfred University is a private college, but within Alfred University is the New York State College of Ceramics. Right? You might think, well, what does a student do at a College of Ceramics? There's both ceramic art programs, but there's also ceramic engineering and biomaterials engineering. In fact, 1/3 of all ceramic engineers in the United States graduated from that school. Okay. Alfred University is about 6.5 hours from New York City. Then we have Cornell University. Oftentimes when I give this presentation in a high school auditorium, I'll ask students to raise their hand if they've heard of Cornell, because that is a private Ivy League university. It's one of the best institutions of higher education in the world. Within that private Ivy League university, there are 4 colleges that are part of the SUNY system. Okay, that's a College of Agricultural and Life Sciences, Human Ecology, Industrial and Labor Relations, and then at the graduate level, we have the College of Veterinary Medicine. So remember those names, right? They clue you in as to what that academic focus is. So students at Cornell University attending one of those SUNY schools, they are at Cornell and they get a degree from Cornell, but they pay the New York State in-state tuition for Cornell University. All right, so they're not paying as much as other students who are attending Cornell. From there we move up to Syracuse. Syracuse and Cornell are both 4.5 hours from New York City. Right? In Syracuse, we have 2 schools. We have the Environmental Science and Forestry College. That school is obviously focused on the management and engineering of natural resources and the environment. And it's a smaller state school. It's got about 1,700 students studying this year on that campus. But the only thing that separates Environmental Science and Forestry from Syracuse University, which is a private college with 30,000 plus students, is just one small street. So students at Environmental Science and Forestry, they're attending a state school and paying state tuition. It is a small state school, but you really are on a huge university campus. Right next door to Environmental Science and Forestry, we have Upstate Medical Center. Upstate Medical University is 4.5 hours away, again in Syracuse, New York. Students at Upstate Medical University study the health sciences as well as medicine, but it's going to be at the upper division level. So that means that students, in order to get into their undergraduate degree programs, would have to have completed at least 60 credits, depending on the degree program, at another college or university, and transfer into that school in their junior year of college. So again, Upstate Medical University is 4.5 hours from New York City by bus, train, or car. Now we're coming down to the College of Optometry, right here in Midtown Manhattan. In fact, that's where my office is located, the SUNY Center for Student Recruitment, right across the street from Bryant Park, for those of you who joined us a little bit late in the presentation. Students here study at the graduate level in optometry. Now we move down to Downstate Medical Center. That's right in Flatbush area of Brooklyn. Downstate Medical Center, similar to Upstate Medical University, they have upper division and graduate programs in the health sciences, including medicine. So again, students looking to go into a bachelor's degree or an undergraduate degree at Downstate Medical Center would have typically 60 credits from another school, another university, before going into those programs. So those are the university centers and doctoral degree granting institutions. Again, at these schools you'll find bachelor's, master's, and doctorate degrees. So let's take a closer look now at the university colleges. These schools, especially when you compare them to the university centers that we saw in the last section, these schools tend to be a little bit smaller. Many of these schools are going to be in the smaller towns, the smaller communities throughout New York State. And now I already mentioned what kind of amenities a city center might have to a student. Again, public transportation around town, large shopping areas downtown, public transportation hubs to other areas of the state and the country and the world. The college town offers students, from my own experience, a sense of a community, because the idea of a college town is that this college, or sometimes there's a couple of colleges, right, but these institutions are typically the largest institutions in that town, in that area. That means when you go up to the mall with your friends, or you go to the movies, or you go to the grocery store, or you go downtown and maybe grab a cup of coffee, you're going to run into students everywhere. So just by virtue of being a student in a college town, you feel like you're already part of that community. And that's from my own experience as a student at SUNY Plattsburgh. Plattsburgh is absolutely a college town, and that's how I felt as soon as I walked onto that campus. These university colleges, a lot of them started off more than 100 years ago as teaching colleges, so they have this long tradition in liberal arts. And since they've moved into the sciences, and now some of them boast some of the best science programs in the United States. That means in the world too, okay? So you get liberal arts and sciences throughout the university colleges. They compete at NCAA Division III, and we're going to take a closer look right now at those schools. We're going to start with Fredonia in Western New York. Fredonia is 7.5 hours from New York City. But remember, it's only a half an hour from Buffalo, New York, which, as I mentioned, was the second largest city in New York State and has a transportation hub as well as an airport. So yes, you are 7.5 hours from New York City, but you're only half an hour from a city center at Buffalo. Now we move to Buffalo State. Buffalo State is the largest school in this category, whereas University of Buffalo was the largest school in the last category that we saw. That means total in Buffalo, New York alone, there are 30,000 SUNY students. And we aren't the only system with schools in that area. We aren't the only colleges in that area. So think about how many students live in Buffalo, New York. Buffalo, again, is 7 hours from New York City. Now we move on to Brockport. That's only 15 minutes from downtown Rochester, New York. Brockport is going to take about 6.5 hours to get from New York City up to the campus. From Brockport to Geneseo, that's also 6.5 hours away. Geneseo was just ranked among the 500 mainly undergraduate schools in the United States offering a physics degree. Geneseo was ranked number 2. So when I talk about these historically liberal arts colleges moving into some of the best science programs in the United States and the world, I mean it. Geneseo, again, 6.5 hours away. Now on to Oswego. Oswego is 5.5 hours from New York City. It has 1.5 miles of shoreline on Lake Ontario, so it's a very unique campus. Cortland is 4.5 hours away. We have Potsdam up north at 6.5 hours away. My alma mater, Plattsburgh, at 5.5 hours. And then we have Empire State College. Now, Empire State College is typically a non-traditional school. They serve students who would usually have maybe a full-time career or a family, who need to organize their college life, their class schedule around their already very busy schedule. So as a student in high school and you're looking to go off and maybe get that college experience and live on a college campus, Empire State might not be the school that you're looking for, but they have 35 locations throughout New York State, and they offer a lot of online programs. So a piece of advice that I took advantage of when I was a student at Plattsburgh is that over the summers and over the winters, if you want to take an online course while you're at home and then transfer those credits back into your home institution, you might be able to graduate early if you do that enough and save some money, or at least maybe take some fewer classes in your senior year and relax a little bit, which, trust me, is very nice. From Empire State, we're moving down to Oneonta. Oneonta is 3.5 hours from New York City. Then we have New Paltz at 1.5 hours away, and very accessible by Metro North. In Westchester County, we have Purchase. So we say that's about 45 minutes to an hour. If students are taking trains and you need to transfer, you know as well as I do, that might take a little bit longer if you're coming from the Brooklyn or Queens area. Old Westbury is only about 30 to 45 minutes out on Long Island. So these, again, are the university colleges. They offer programs in the liberal arts and the sciences. They compete, one more time, at NCAA Division III level. Now, I know a lot of you are asking questions. I am going to respond to those if they are relevant to the slide we're on. If not, I'm going to do a Q&A section at the end, so I will absolutely try to answer as many of your questions as possible. And so far, they look like wonderful questions. So thank you very much. And if I don't get to your question, you can give us a call or send us an email. I'll put that contact information up, and we will absolutely get you the information you need. Now we move on to the technology colleges. So this is the third sector out of the 4 different campus sectors, the technology colleges. And in the technology colleges, you find still those liberal arts and science programs. But next to those programs, you find hands-on education. And when I say hands-on education, I'm not just talking about automotive mechanics or automotive technology, but I'm also talking about culinary arts, talking about law enforcement technology, cybersecurity. Programs where you're working with the tools or the technology that's used in a particular career field. And again, that's next to the liberal arts and the sciences that are also offered throughout not only this campus type, but all the SUNY campus types. Within this campus type, you find certificate, associate, and bachelor degree programs. And 2 of these schools have master degree programs. That's Maritime and SUNY IT. They compete at a range of division levels. That information is right on our website, which I'll also show you if you are interested in athletics. There's a really neat little search tool for that right on our website, and you can find out exactly which division level a particular school competes at and for which sports. So, first we start with Alfred State. And on the map that you're looking at, Alfred State looks kind of lonely out there. But remember from the map a couple slides ago that Alfred University is right next door, so you actually have quite a few students in that area. That's 6.5 hours away, as I said. And then Canton up north is also 6.5 hours away. That looks lonely up north, I know, but Potsdam is right next door to Canton. So you do have a good-sized student population in that area as well. Now we're going to move down to the Utica area. SUNY IT is located just outside of Utica, New York, so it's going to be just over 4 hours from New York City. That's the only New York State Public Institute of Technology, by the way. Then we have Morrisville State College of Technology. Morrisville is just outside of Utica as well, so about maybe 4 hours and 15 minutes, 4.5 hours to Morrisville. Then we move over to Cobleskill. Cobleskill is 3.5 hours from New York City, but it's only half an hour from Albany, so you still have that city center there and that opportunity for transportation to not only New York State, but other parts of the country and the world from Cobleskill. Delhi is 3 hours from New York City. Maritime College is right in the Bronx, and I love this statistic from Maritime. 100% of their graduates are employed within 6 months of graduation, and many of them make the highest starting salary of anybody else in their career field. Now again, when I'm giving this presentation to students in a room in an auditorium where you might be sitting yourselves right now with your counselors, I'll typically ask, who knows what maritime means? Raise your hand. Maritime refers to water, the ocean, the sea. So they have science programs, but it's going to be marine biology and oceanography. They have architecture, but it's naval architecture. They have shipping and trade programs at the graduate level for business majors, but it is very focused on that particular area of study. Students coming from Maritime are able to get this unique education, which is why they're able to find careers so quickly after graduation and why they're able to start so high on the salary. Farmingdale is only about 45 minutes out on Long Island. They just built a brand new school of business, and they're the only New York State school to offer a 4-year professional pilot program. So think about the range of programs that are available to you throughout our campuses, from business to pilot. Right? If you want to manage a golf course, or you want to go into culinary arts management, right? Engineering, technology, computer sciences, health, and the liberal arts. We can't forget about the liberal arts. Criminal justice, political science, philosophy, sociology and social work, psychology and history and education. Okay. Now we're focusing on the community colleges. SUNY has 30 community colleges throughout New York State. I always tell students that there are 3 really great reasons to look at the community colleges to start. Number 1, by starting at a 2-year school, students on average save $5,000 to $6,000 a year. Number 2, not every student knows what they want to major in or knows what kind of career they want to go into. As a senior in high school, I had no idea. Every SUNY student needs to take 30 credits of general education requirements. So regardless of what your major is, you're still going to have to take classes in these different subject areas that we deem necessary for a well-rounded education. So through these credits, myself and other students like me who didn't know what kind of major they wanted or what kind of career they wanted are able to expand and take a look at all of these different subject areas and really hone in or develop their academic interests. So again, number 1 is you save $5,000 to $6,000 a year on average at the community college level. Number 2 is you develop those academic interests. And number 3, you get a chance to move away from your high school record. And not everybody needs to do that. But I think for a lot of students, that's a really important key aspect about community colleges. After you complete 24 credits at the college level, that's about 1 year of study. When you go to transfer to another school, that other school is typically not going to ask for your high school records. That includes your SAT scores or your high school transcripts. They are more interested in those 24 credits. So it gives students an opportunity who are being held back by their high school transcript, by their SAT scores, to work hard, bring that GPA up to a 3.0 or a 3.5, and from there go on anywhere. We say open enrollment, not always, because the mission of a community college is typically to provide education to students within their area, regardless of what their academic background was, as long as they have a high school diploma. Now, since those days, these community colleges have opened up to students outside of their area, and they've become so popular and get so many applications that for some programs, they have to put restrictions on the minimum average, minimum Regents exam scores. So while other programs at that school, they might say that's entirely open enrollment and all you need is a New York State diploma, for certain programs, an example is often nursing. You'll find that there are just so many applications that these schools do say they're looking for a particular high school average. We have one question asking, can I still apply for fall 2014? There are many schools that still have programs open for fall 2014, but I have to warn you that these schools operate on a rolling admissions basis. Rolling admissions essentially means first come, first serve. That means that the first applications that are received by the schools and completed are the first applications to be reviewed and the first applications to whom a seat is offered in that program. So as we go through the admissions process, these programs are going to start to close one by one as the schools fill up those seats in the programs. So if you want to take a look at our website, suny.edu/student, there's a program search tool and you'll be able to see which schools have certain programs open still. And you are welcome to apply to those programs. At this point, I would certainly advise that you get all of your necessary and required documentation to that school as soon as possible so that they can complete your application and review it for fall 2014 admissions purposes. For those juniors that are listening in right now that are interested in fall 2015, our application is going to go up in August this summer. Okay. So let's take a quick look at the community colleges. And by this point in the presentation, I hope that you have a sense of how far certain areas of New York State are from New York City and how long that's going to take you to get from home up to these schools. So I'm not going to go through each one and give you a time to the school. But what I do want to point out is that we have these 30 schools between the tip of Long Island and Buffalo, New York, and from New York City all the way up to the border with Canada. And when you look at these 30 community colleges, if you can recall some of the past slides that we've been looking at, some of the past maps, you'll see that they're actually right in around the same areas where we find our four-year schools. So if you wanted to go to maybe Binghamton University, you might think about starting at Tompkins, Cortland, or Broome. You're living in the same area. Both of those schools have on-campus housing. If you wanted to go to Albany, you'll find on-campus housing at Schenectady County, Fulton, Montgomery, and at the moment, Hudson Valley is even building on-campus housing. 20 of these 30 community colleges have on-campus housing. That means for you, you can still get that full college experience that you're looking for at the two-year level before moving into the four-year schools. And rest assured, the schools that don't have on-campus housing still have the student support services so that you're able to comfortably transition into college, get the help that you need academically, boost your GPA, and move on from there. This is the academic review. This is what our schools are looking for, or any admissions office is looking for, to make sure that students are going to be qualified and successful at their school, because that's what it's all about. We want to bring in students who are going to be successful at the schools. Okay, so you have the number of credits that you've achieved, the level of that coursework, if you took AP classes or college level classes, your rank in class. Not every school ranks, but if that's information that you have access to, that helps you to determine where you are. Okay, and that's very important when you make a realistic and educated decision about the schools that you're applying to. Your Regents exam scores, that will, if you look at your Regents exams, you want to go into science, technology, engineering, or mathematics, and you take a look at your Regents exams and see that you're struggling in math and sciences, then you know that maybe you need to do a little bit of work before you go directly into one of those programs. Okay? Your overall high school average is extremely important, and I'm going to show you in a moment our admissions information summary, and that can be found on our website where we lay out the high school averages that these schools are looking for based on the class that just started this past fall. And we're going to do the same thing for the SAT and the ACT scores. Those are very key pieces of information about your academic record and how successful you can be at the college level. And we do have a question that leads right into this slide. What should a student's GPA be to go to any SUNY school? And the answer to that is these are 64 individual and unique campuses, and they each have their own academic admissions requirements, or standards rather. So what you're looking at now is called our Admissions Information Summary 2013, and it's available on our website. This is going to lay out for the schools in the SUNY system that offer a four-year degree or above. This is going to lay out the size of that campus, so you can see how many students are attending that school this year, 2013 through 2014. Then you're going to see the SAT scores, ACT scores, and high school averages of the freshmen who started at these schools this past fall, came in at the end of August or the beginning of September this past fall. When you're looking at this sheet, I want to be very clear that what we've done is we've taken the SAT scores out of 1,600, because as you may know, the SAT is out of 2,400, but we only look at two sections, critical reading and math. So we're looking actually at 1,600, not 2,400. But we've taken all the students coming into each school this past fall, and we've lined up those SAT scores from lowest to highest. And we've taken out the middle 50%. And that's what you're seeing reflected here, is that middle 50% of students who were admitted this past fall to each one of our schools that offer a four-year program. And you're going to get a good idea here from the school's point of view, which students are academically competitive for admissions. Okay, so some students were admitted with lower SAT scores, some with higher SAT scores, but this gives you a good idea of what the schools are looking for. You see the same information for the ACT scores. The ACT, we're looking at the composite score, and the high school average, you have the same information, that middle 50%, so that you know there is a little bit of leeway on each side, but this is what the schools are looking for. And the further that you get below the ranges you see on the admissions information summary, the further you go below those ranges, the more unlikely that school becomes for admissions, the more of a reach that school becomes. And I like that term reach because it leads into our next point, which is laying out the SUNY application between reach schools, likely schools, and safety schools. You want to make sure to give yourself the best opportunity to get into a school that you want to go to. You're laying your application out between reach schools, likely schools, and safety schools. If you're applying to all reach schools, then you're really setting yourself up to be disappointed. Okay, you want to make sure that you are laying out the application so that you have a chance to get into the school you want to study at and where you want to be. Because if you're not happy, if you're not comfortable at the school, how well are you really going to do there? How much are you going to enjoy your time there? So, when we talk about a reach school, what I'm talking about is using this admissions information summary for SUNY, finding schools that you fall at the lower end or maybe just below those ranges, those middle 50% ranges. And again, the further you go below, the more of a reach it becomes. But this school, even though you're at the lower end of the range or just below it, this school might offer exactly what you're looking for out of a college. Maybe it's exactly the right distance, the right size. If you're looking for an athletic program, maybe it has the exact athletic program that you're interested in. So it's a reach school because that's your top choice. I would never discourage a student from applying to a school where that's the ideal school for them. But you need to back that up with likely schools. So a likely school, maybe it's going to be a little bit too far or too close. Maybe it's a little too big or too small. But it has the academic program you're looking for. If you want to play sports, it has the athletic program that you're looking for. And for the most part, you would love to study on this campus. And academically, you fit into their admission standards. You fit right in the middle of their SAT score range or ACT score range and the high school average range as well. Then we talk about safety schools. So a safety school, maybe it's a little too far, maybe it's a little too small. But they have the program you need so that you can get started with your education. So you can get that degree you want, so you can get into the career field you want. Okay? So a safety school is not your ideal school, it's not your top school, but it's a backup plan. You need to have a backup plan. So on your application, a smart application to any school, whether you're applying to SUNY or not, is going to be to lay out that application between reach schools, likely schools, and safety schools. You want one reach, two likely, and one safety school. I just want to see if there's any other questions coming in. Not at the moment. And again, if you do have questions, I will try to get to them as quickly as I can, especially if they're relevant to the information we're talking about at the moment. And at the end, we'll do a short question and answer section. So I will try to go back and recap any of the questions that have come in that I haven't been able to get to just yet. So I want to talk about the Educational Opportunity Program. Educational Opportunity Program, it was set up in the 1960s, and we set it up for students who had low grades and low household income. Because we saw these students as being disadvantaged, we saw that these students were not able to get the kind of support that other students had. So while academically their grades suffered, they had low high school averages, low SAT scores, it didn't mean necessarily that they couldn't be successful if we were going to give them the support, the academic support that they need. So this is truly an academic assistance program for students who need that kind of academic support to be successful at the college level. So far, we've graduated 60,000 plus students from this program. So it is a phenomenal program. We love this program, and what I want to point out, though, is that 60,000 students is, when you compare it to our overall 3 million students, nearly 3 million alumni, 60,000 is actually a relatively small number to that. So I do like to point out to students who are interested in the EOP program that this is a rather small program at many of our campuses. And if you want to also find on our website the EOP information summary, you'll see right there how many students are being brought in every fall into a particular school's EOP program. My advice to you, if you're applying EOP and you're a junior in high school, is to prepare for the application and the essay and the financial documentation that you're going to eventually have to provide. Because in order to be eligible for the EOP program, you need to be both academically and financially eligible, right? Academic eligibility, you'll see right on the front side of this piece of paper here, this Educational Opportunity Information Summary. And it's going to be similar to the information summary we saw a moment ago. You're going to see the SAT scores, ACT scores, and high school averages. Academic eligibility for any particular school means that you fit into those ranges, those SAT, ACT, and high school average ranges. That means you are academically eligible for that school. Now there's financial eligibility, and that's actually based on the household size and the household income. That information is on the back side of this information summary. It's available on our website. So you want to make sure that you are both academically and financially eligible for the Educational Opportunity Program before you apply. If you are and you choose to apply, you need to make sure that you get that application in as early as you can, get the essay in as soon as possible while still making it a good essay, a solid essay. Because somehow, as an EOP applicant, you're going to have to stand out among a very large crowd of other EOP candidates. You're going to have to make sure that you stand out. So my advice to you is work very hard on that college essay. Over the summer, you have a lot of time to do research. Work very hard, plan that essay out, write up a first draft, and when you come back to school in the fall as a senior, bring it right to your guidance counselor. Have them read over it, come up with a second draft, and keep doing that until you have a good, solid essay. Because for the EOP program, we need to determine that you can be successful at the college level. And that essay is one of the ways we're going to do that. Okay? You're also going to have to provide financial documents. That information is usually pretty available both on our website, suny.edu/student, or on any particular school's website that has the EOP program. Hopefully that information is available. If not, you should be able to give the school a call, and they can give you a heads up on what kind of documentation you'll need to prove eligibility for financially for EOP. And you want to make sure you have those materials ready to go. As soon as the school asks for it, you send those materials to them so that your application for EOP becomes complete. So again, to recap, this is an academic assistance program. There is a small amount of financial assistance that EOP students do receive, and that typically goes towards non-tuition related expenses. So it's really going to be towards your books and supplies. There's going to be some financial assistance there. Okay. For tuition-related expenses, you're going to be looking, of course, for financial aid, both federal and state financial aid. Okay. A lot of you, I'm assuming, are juniors in high school right now, right? And if you're not, this information is still very relevant to you. Okay. We want you to start researching. And by researching, what I mean is really figure out what matters to you about a college. What's important, so that when you're going out and you're looking at schools, you know where you're going to be happy and where you're not. So really start focusing first on what matters to you, and then you can start focusing on the schools that have those things. Attending college fairs is a great way to get face-to-face conversations with college admissions representatives from each of our schools. The SUNY College Fair is coming up in May. It's going to be held up in Washington Heights, right near Columbia University Medical Center. That again is coming up in May, and you can sign up for that program on our website by going to suny.edu/student, and you'll see an events tab on the lower left side of the page. Visiting a college campus is probably one of the most important things that you can do. And even if you're not sure which schools you're most interested in, try and get out there. You have some time. If you're a junior or a sophomore, you have some time to kind of get outside of New York City and visit a college campus, any college campus, and walk around that college campus and think about what things you like and what things you don't like about that campus, so that going forward, you know what is most important. Okay. Who's going to write your letter of recommendation? You want to make sure that that letter of recommendation speaks to your academic abilities and speaks to your dedication as a student, and speaks to your ability to succeed in college. So you want to give a lot of thought to maybe a counselor or a teacher who you have a very good relationship with, who can speak to those abilities. And I always like to point out that I've never met anybody that took the SAT and got a perfect score, right? I'm sure there are some people out there who were able to do that, but I've never met them. So when you take the SAT, a lot of you will be preparing right now for the SAT. Be prepared to take it more than once, okay? No matter how much preparation you do, when you sit down for that exam, there are going to be some things that you maybe weren't expecting, some things that throw you off a little bit. So when you first take the SAT, be aware of those things. What are the things that you weren't expecting? What are the things that you wished you'd prepared for? And then when you go back in and take it again, you know now. And hopefully you can boost those scores a little bit. SUNY, as I mentioned before, we're looking at critical reading and math, those two sections on the SAT. If you take the exam more than once, we will always take the two highest sections and combine them. That means if you take the SAT for the first time and you do very well in critical reading, but your math scores are maybe a little bit low, and then take it again and you're able to bring math up, but critical reading either stays the same or goes down, we're going to take the two highest of the critical reading and math across the two exams and combine them together to give you the highest score that we can for admissions purposes. The application process. We try to make it very streamlined, very simple. The SUNY application, it's available, as I mentioned, for the 2015 academic year for juniors. It's going to be available in August 2014, this upcoming August. You can find that on our website. So you're going to complete that SUNY application. There is an application fee. It costs $50 per campus that you put on that application. That application fee can be waived based on financial eligibility. If you are looking at the EOP information summary, and you saw that financial eligibility on the back side of that page, which again is found right on our website, that financial eligibility matches up with the financial fee waiver for the application fee. So if you are qualified and you can show us that your household size and income matches that graph on the back of the EOP information summary, we will waive 4 schools on the application. So we'll give you 4 free campus choices, because remember, you want reach, 2 likely, and 1 safety school on that application. So we're going to give you 4 free school choices. If you're applying to EOP, you get 4 free school choices right away. The academic record. You can either have your school counselor submit the academic record, or you can complete the SOAR, the SUNY Online Academic Record. The SOAR is available on our website once you create an account on suny.edu/student. You can access it right now. Even if you're a junior and you're not applying yet, you can create a username and a login, and you'll be able to start the SUNY Online Academic Record. And that's where you're going to enter in all of your high school classes, your grades, what level those classes were, and you're going to submit that information to us instead of a high school transcript. All right. If you are admitted to that school, you'll then have to provide a final official transcript from your high school where they're going to compare the information you provided with the final official transcript and make sure that everything is accurate. So you want to make sure that you are very careful in entering those scores and those classes on there. For some students, that might be an easier way to get the transcript off to the schools. For other students, you're going to be asking your high school counselor to upload those documents. Hopefully they have access to upload the documents directly into our system, or they can send a sealed paper copy to each of the schools that you've applied to. But you want to get that academic record up to the schools. The supplemental application, that's where you will tell us what senior year courses that you're taking. So yes, juniors going into your senior year, we will not be able to see your senior year grades. We can only see grades through your junior year. But you know what we can see, because you're going to tell us, is what classes you're taking in your senior year. So it's very obvious to us, students who have pushed themselves and taken AP level courses, College Now courses, and then in their senior year decide to take as few credits as possible and some of the easiest courses that they can because they got the senioritis, right? So you want to avoid that, and you want to make sure you're still pushing yourself through your senior year. You're going to tell us what senior year courses you're taking on the supplemental application. You're going to let us know about any honors and awards that you've received. Any volunteer work or work experience that you've had that is hopefully relevant, as we saw in the last slide, relevant to your academic ambitions. And then you're also going to write a college essay. Right? You're going to choose one of 6 different topics to write that essay on. And that essay has to be maximum 650 words, 250 to 650 words essay. So when you think about it, it's not a very long essay. You need to get that done early so that you can have a first draft ready to go to bring to your counselor, to bring to your parent or guardian, and to really review that and work that down into a couple more drafts and submit a good essay to these schools. You'll also see a personal statement, and that's optional. The personal statement, I think, is often overlooked by students because it is optional. It's 250 words, and that's your chance to really say, hey, to this college representative, this is who I am, and this is where I'm coming from, and this is why I think your school is a good fit for us, or for me, rather. This is why I think your program is a good fit for me. This is why I think I can succeed on your campus, because your school is exactly what I'm looking for. That's your opportunity to speak directly to that admissions counselor, that personal statement. So do take advantage of that. After you get the supplemental application to the school, your transcript's already up there. You're going to get your letters of recommendation sent up to the school, and any other required documents. You always want to check the school's website. Always check the school's website for deadlines or other required documentation. If you're applying to an art program, you may need to submit a portfolio. So you want to know, do I have to? When's it due? What needs to be in it? You need to know all those things. That's going to be found on their website. So always check the website for additional required documents and deadlines. And the next step, once you know that all of your documents are there and your application is complete at that school, the next step is to receive that decision letter from the school. The majority of college decisions are sent out between February and early April, a majority. Okay, so it does take some time to get through all this paperwork at the admissions office. You need to be patient, but eventually you'll get that decision and you'll be on. As long as you laid your application out between reach schools, likely schools, and safety schools, you'll be onto a campus of your choice, hopefully in the fall. My advice to you, do your research now. Start figuring out, again, which schools matter, or I'm sorry, which aspects of a school matter to you, what you're looking for out of a college, what's important so that you're comfortable and happy and you can be successful at that school. Start doing that research now so that come the summertime when you're no longer in class all day, you can really start focusing in on the schools that offer those things to you. Okay. As I've mentioned a couple of times, our applications go up in early August. Right. There are worksheets available on our website along with those admissions information summaries. So hopefully tonight you have a moment and you can go on to suny.edu/student You can find those information summaries, find those worksheets if you're going to apply, and that's going to lay out, it's a paper worksheet so that you know exactly what kind of information we're looking for, and you can gather those materials together so that the application process is very simple when it comes time for you to apply. Okay. Our schools use the 50 of the 64 SUNY schools use the Apply SUNY application, and then several of our schools also use the Common application. If you're filling out a Common application, you'd like to put a SUNY school on there, great. Whatever is easiest for you, but both applications are there for your choice, your opportunities. I want to take a look at how much it costs to attend a SUNY school, what the cost of attendance is every year that you're attending a 4-year SUNY school and you're living on campus. The tuition is set by New York State at $5,870 per year. And if you're looking closely at this slide, I hope all of you can see it, you'll see that little E next to the rest of those costs. That E means it's an estimate because those costs change between schools and between programs and between people, between individuals. Right? The student fees, room and board, books and supplies, personal expenses, transportation, all those costs may fluctuate a bit, but these are estimates, these are averages between our schools. Total cost of attendance at a 4-year SUNY school for 1 year living on campus is estimated to be $22,700 a year. When we look at the 2-year schools, that total cost of attendance per year goes down to about $17,500 per year. I want to compare these costs to your other options because there are more than 4,000 colleges here in the United States. But trust me when I say you only have 3 options. 3 options of where you're going to go to school. So let's take a look. Are you going to go to a private school where just tuition and fees alone, that's not room and board, not books and supplies, not personal expenses, just the tuition and fees on average in the United States at a private school runs almost $30,000 every year. An out-of-state public school, you're going to be paying close to $22,000 a year as an out-of-state student at a public school outside of New York State. Or you can come to a SUNY 4-year school where you're looking at tuition and fees combined, $7,200 per year. Or a SUNY 2-year school where $4,500 per year is the estimated tuition and fees. So when it comes to how affordable this education is, I like to stress that we are on the other side of the spectrum. Right? And our schools are ranked time and time again as some of the best values in higher education in the United States. Some of the best return on investments in higher education in the United States. So I really want to stress how affordable and valuable this education is here at within the SUNY system. I also want to stress that 75% of our students receive financial assistance, and that's both financial aid through federal and New York State, as well as scholarships and grants. We give out $83 million a year in scholarships and grants throughout our schools. What you're seeing now is a screenshot of our new and improved website, which is coming soon. We're hoping very early spring this year. So you'll see this, you see the apply button on the upper right side. If you click on that, it'll bring you right to the application login screen. You should be able to find any information you need through our website. As it stands, if you go to suny.edu/student right now, this is the website you'll see. This is our current website. And down the left side of the page, you see that there are all those tabs. You can find just about anything you need if you want to find out which schools have particular study abroad programs because you want to go to this city in this country. You go click on academics and study abroad. You'll find a nice search tool there. If you want to know exactly, because remember when we looked at cost of attendance, and you want to know exactly how much, or rather get a better idea of how much it might cost to go to one particular SUNY school, then under paying for college, you'll find a net price calculator. And while that still is an estimate, you can narrow it down to a particular school and get a much better idea of how much that's going to cost you for 1 year study at that school. The Apply Now button you see there, if you click on that, you can start, you can make your login, create a username and a password, and as I mentioned, even if you're not applying yet, you can still start the SUNY Online Academic Record if you'd like to do that now. If you're reviewing our website, and you're unable to find information that you're looking for, you just can't find it anywhere on our website, you click on Get Answers, and then you'll see Reach Us. Now, before I click on Reach Us, what I want to point out to you is Publications and Forms is also under Get Answers. That's where you're going to find not only those worksheets we talked about for the application and the supplemental application, but also those admissions information summaries, right, for both regular admissions, EOP, the community colleges, right, as well as honors programs. So you can get that information by clicking on Publications and Forms. If you want more information, you're unable to find it, you can click on right on Reach Us, and you'll see our contact page. That live chat button. I used to work in that office, and I'll tell you, we pick up within 3 to 5 seconds during normal business hours. So if you're having trouble finding something, click on live chat, and you'll have a representative there to help you out right away. If you'd like to book an appointment here at the SUNY Center for Student Recruitment, give us a call. You can send an email to asksuny@suny.edu as well, and our website, one more time, www.suny.edu/student. I want to remind you about the services we offer here in this office. We spend our day usually during the summer or breaks when students are out of school, assisting those students in finding the right fit for them within the SUNY system. Not only do we help them find the right fit, we help them apply to that school and fill out any required documentation for that school, including financial aid forms. So here at the SUNY Center for Student Recruitment, we really are your front door to SUNY. You're more than welcome to stop in during normal business hours, or we'd prefer if you give us a call if you need some help on finding the school and applying, so that you can set up an appointment with an advisor like myself, and we can sit down with you and take care of everything in one shot. That concludes my presentation. We have about 5 minutes, so if anybody has any questions, I'll do my best to answer. If not, thank you so much for attending, and I want to thank not only you students for joining us and for paying attention to this presentation. I know it's a lot of information to get through, but I want to thank counselors, I want to thank staff, faculty, and administrators who have put this program together for the students. Please also take advantage of our contact information here if you have any questions or concerns about the SUNY system or our programs of study or our application processes. Please give us a call. Okay. Oftentimes students are inquire about whether or not our campuses are diverse and what diversity looks like on our campuses. And while we don't have a question directly from it, I do want to let you know that SUNY schools, we have 1 in 3 high school students in New York State coming to our campuses. 1 in 3. We have students from every state in the United States attending our campuses, and we have students from 160 different countries throughout the world attending our campuses. So it doesn't get much more diverse than that. Okay, we are confident that as long as you are doing your research about these schools, as long as you are paying attention to what matters and what's important out of college for you, you're going to be comfortable on any SUNY campus that you attend. We have academic support services, we have personal support services and counseling, so that there are professionals at these campuses who can help you adjust if that is something that you need. You are not alone on these campuses. You start out with an advisor right away to make sure that you are acclimating well and that your schedule is set up and you're completing the coursework you need to complete. So we don't have any further questions at this time. I think that's going to conclude our presentation for today, and I hope to see you sometime this spring or in the fall, or stop in over the summer. And we do hope to see your application come through for you juniors next year, for the sophomores in 2015. Thank you, and have a wonderful day.